action.
Hi everyone! I'm Sherry.
I'm Peyton.
And I'm Rachel, and we're Alana's event and design team. November is Native American Heritage Month, and so today we're going to be talking about blood quantum and what that is and why it's used. So Native Americans are the only ethnic group in America that have to do this, and the federal government issues a certified degree of Indian blood, which is similar to an ID card. And it's calculated through tribal documents by either a government official or a tribal official.
Right. And so it's basically a math equation. They take the original people that were in the tribe and on that census, and then they calculate the fraction of their blood that's still existent in natives today. But I mean, the problem with that, obviously, is that the people who had, full blood quantum, there's really no way for them to have known, like for the federal government to have known that, because they didn't know how these communities worked or how they were established. So the way that they figured out who was full blood was just by appearances and, who was most involved in the community, which isn't scientific or valid,
Right,
really.
yeah.
So.
Yeah, and so the problem with that is that there's actually a history of a lot of freed black men immersing themselves and being part of these Native American communities. And so it's interesting because when the government was taking the census, as we said, they were basing it off of appearance, right? So because these people appeared as black rather than Native American, they weren't included, even though they were very much so part of the communities. And so because of this, there were a lot of biracial children, and now those descendants don't have enough Native blood. They don't count because they were mixed. And so now they're not able to be a part of those tribes or may just not meet the requirement anymore.
Yeah, well, it's initially a system that the federal government placed on tribes to limit their citizenship.
Right.
But many Native nations still use it as part of their citizenship requirements.
Yeah, and I mean that varies tribe to tribe, right? And so, like in the Navajo tribe, you have to have 25% Navajo blood to be a member. But in the Turtle Mountain tribe, you just have to have 25% of any native blood, as long as some amount of that is Turtle Mountain. But I mean, it's crazy to think about because, like in the Navajo tribe, if you have that 25%, but you have a child with someone who doesn't, who is like 0%, then your child can't be part of your tribe because they don't have that 25%. Yeah. Wow.
Yeah. Blood quantum was literally created to measure Indianness, so that over generations natives would just breed themselves out so that they no longer existed.
Right.
And basically what this did was the federal government, I'm going to start that over. Yeah, so blood quantum was literally created to measure Indianness, so that over generations natives would just breed themselves out so that they no longer existed. And what this means is that the federal government wouldn't have to uphold their legal duties anymore, so that they would essentially get to take claims to their land.
Yeah, and so this is really ironic because the government had this blood quantum requirement, but then they also have the one-drop rule, if you're familiar with that. So the one-drop rule was basically saying that if you had even a single drop of black blood, you were therefore black. And fell under the umbrella of discrimination and being oppressed. And this was made so that they were able to oppress as many people as they possibly could. So it's just interesting that then on the other hand, they made this blood quantum requirement where, opposite to that, if you were mixed at all with anything other than just being completely Native American, you were therefore diluted and not Native American enough, and therefore possibly not.
I mean, the ultimate question is why do tribes, or why don't tribes stop using blood quantum and switch over to membership through lineal descent? So on both sides, they're going to be arguing for survival of the tribe in their own ways. And so, on the side of lineal descent, they think that high memberships in itself is a resistance, that it's a way for the tribe to survive physically based on high numbers. But on the side of blood quantum, they're thinking about ways to preserve this community that is so closely knit and so culturally connected, right? So rather than physical survival and existence, they're thinking of a cultural and spiritual existence of the tribe. But I think ultimately what we have to land on is, you know, whatever your opinion on this, it's up to each tribe how they want to go about membership, right? And, you know, we should be informed, we should be thinking about these questions and seeking answers, but ultimately their freedom, one of like few freedoms that they have from the federal government is their decision on how they want to include membership, and that's important to remember.
Yeah, well, that's all we have for you guys today. Thank you so much for watching. Tune into our next video to hear our treasurer talk about the Dakota Access Pipeline protests. Thanks.
Bye.